All right. So, on the subject of respecing and skill points and all that, I want to talk about Oblivion, specifically from a sort of PlayStation perspective, because this is very kind of infamously like almost a 360 launch game. Definitely better known on 360. The PS3 version came eventually, but was, not exactly very well received. Like it was kind of busted. And I feel like because of that, it's easy to forget that it was ever even a PlayStation game at all. I was kind of late to the party on Elder Scrolls. Like Skyrim was my first exposure, and I jumped in on there. And so now I'm kind of coming at Oblivion pretty fresh, and I feel like a lot of people are kind of going to be in a similar boat. Like there's definitely a generation of gamers who were not around for this one. Like maybe Skyrim was their first foray into this universe. Maybe they dabbled in other Bethesda games prior to that. But this is kind of the game that really established Bethesda as making console RPGs. Like this was really their, Morrowind is on Xbox, but this is the one that got people's attention. And so, as a couple of, not first timers, I'm kind of curious if you have any tips on how to go about getting into Oblivion.
Yeah. Nick, you want to start?
Actually, outside of that one time that I played way back in the day, every time I've gotten back into it, it was the older version. So this will be the first time I'm like fully going all in on Oblivion. So
nice.
I would like some tips.
Yeah, Jada, help us out here.
The expert is here at the table. The doctor is in. So the big thing I will say is Max, we kind of touched a little bit about it on our live stream that, Ryan kind of mentioned was, golden pathing the story versus kind of exploring. There is benefits to both. Golden pathing the story is great because it does make it a little bit easier to not get sidetracked as you're exploring, because the Oblivion gates start to pop up more and more frequently as you progress. And as you get, I believe it was scaled sometimes with level. I could be wrong. It's been a long time. I haven't played this since like probably 2007, 2008. But but if you golden path it, it does help cut down on how much time you need to spend just closing random Oblivion gates that pop up.
They're just sort of like randomly generated monster closets. Is that
kind of like that? They open up periodically in locations, but they're also really good to go into because a lot of the best gear you're going to want generally drops out of these Oblivion gates. So that is one aspect of it. The other thing is, and I haven't played enough. I'm literally in the sewers escaping, fighting rats right now. The leveling up system in Oblivion in the 2006 classic version is tricky to say the least, because enemies would scale with your level. Certain enemies were capped at certain ones, but certain ones would just scale with you pretty much almost infinitely up till, I want to say your mid 20s, like 26 or so, they would scale. Maybe it was 20, and then they just kept scaling. But they still scale with you post that point. But all they do at that point, they don't get they don't hit any harder, or they just get more HP. So the enemies become massive sponges for damage. So your DPS may stop going up as fast, but their HP just keeps going up because.
So they're just they're less of a threat, but they're more annoying.
Exactly.
Oh God, that sucks. Okay.
Yeah, terrible. So I'm hoping that they've fix that in this version, but the big thing is to just be really in control of when you level up. And you level up by gaining 10 stats in a specific skill tree or skill class, and then resting, just like you kind of would do in Skyrim, right? You would rest to trigger your level ups, if I remember right. I could be. I think
they would just happen automatically.
Maybe it did just happen naturally, yeah. But yeah, so when you go to rest, that's when your level ups will trigger. So you want to be careful about when you rest, but also Oblivion had this thing called major and minor skills. And you have all the skills, athletics, one-handed, two-handed, magicka, sneaking, lock-picking, whatever. You used to pick 7 major skills and I believe 7 minors, or maybe it's just 7 majors. But anyways, whatever skills you select as your majors, when you get 10 points combined between those, that's when you will level up. That's what
Got
will
it.
trigger your enough experience to level up.
This is so funny coming at this, and again, like it sounds like they overhauled a fair amount of this or streamlined it or whichever. But like coming at this from Skyrim, which I remember, I don't know. I know that Skyrim rubbed some Oblivion fans the wrong way because it was kind of more, you know, it was more casual friendly. Like they did a lot to make it.
It was a lot simplified.
Yeah, it was less. I don't know, less D&D informed. Like it was less. You're spending less time in menus, and like one thing I remember being fascinated by is that whole like that Skyrim. The menu system was inspired by an iPod. Like I remember Todd Howard talking about that and how like the way you what is it like you pull up your menu and you've got the sort of the floating things in front of you and like one way it goes to items, one way it goes to spells, and then you go up to your skill tree and it's this whole like celestial chart thing. And yeah, I mean admittedly I played Skyrim at a time when I wasn't, you know, I'd grown up with RPGs, but I feel like I hadn't even fully understood a lot of the systems in them. Like it's some, you know, stuff that takes a minute to unpack it. And it's always funny to me because it's the visual representation of a lot of tabletop math. And it's kind of funny seeing how that can be interpreted different ways. But jumping into Oblivion, it's so much feels really familiar and so much feels completely like just sort of off in a funny way. Like it really does feel like it plays like Skyrim for obvious reasons. And it does the thing where you get the kind of the passive leveling where if you're sprinting and jumping everywhere, it's just going to keep like, you're going to see that gauge for your athletics going up. And I love that it's like the thing that you're doing a lot you get better at it. Like that's how experience should work. Right.
There's also like with that being said, with those skill points, when you hit certain levels in specific skills, you get like major boons to those skills. So I think like, what was it? I think it was athletics or acrobatics. I think it was acrobatics. Once you hit like level 100, you could like jump on the water for a period of time. Like you could literally kind of water walk. But that's I mean, that's obviously getting that skill to 100.
Yeah, I'm getting those like load screen tips where it's like, once you're an expert in this thing, you can do this thing. And I'm like, I'm excited to find out about that in 40 hours. That'll be fun.
Exactly. So that being said, I would not recommend athletics being a major skill for anybody, just because the more you sprint, the more that experience is going to go up, and you may trigger level ups inadvertently because you're trying to sprint around and get everywhere faster.
So you're saying the major skills should be stuff that you are less likely to do organically in the game. Is that the idea?
Yes. So
Gotcha.
Not things that you're going to be doing 1,000 times every time you boot up to play, you know, like
got it.
Or talking to people. Is persuasion can be a little, you know, can be hit or miss just depending on how your play style.
What are the quests you'd recommend going for? Like obviously if you're sidestepping the golden path stuff and you want to kind of steer clear of Oblivion gates, what direction would you tell people to go if they just want to kind of explore the world and like get started? And like, I've heard good stuff about the Dark Brotherhood quest.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the guild quests, Oblivion has done guild quests probably better than a lot of games have done, even ones that have followed it. The Thieves Guild as well as the Dark Brotherhood are the major standout quest lines that I would say. Definitely as soon as you can start picking up the breadcrumbs on where to start those and where to do those, you won't be disappointed by jumping into those. And they have some really cool story twists in some of them as well. The Mage Guild one has always been kind of lower for me. It's kind of it starts off really good, but then it kind of loses a lot of momentum quickly. So hopefully they maybe, you know, change that a little bit in this time around. There's also like the Fighters Guild, which is just gladiator style brawling. Just fight your way to the top, killing stronger and stronger things, which is a lot of fun. So those types of quests are great. And I think the other thing is just, you know, go around and talk to NPCs to find other quests, because some of the very memey dialogue is still there. Though they did record new dialogue as they revealed in their little live stream, but they kept some of the very jokey meme stuff, because that is just some of the charm of Oblivion, is just how ridiculous some of the people are when you talk to them, just in their responses, their canned responses. Because
the funny thing about this is like this game dropped stealthily, like we all sort of knew about it, but again it you know, it came out of nowhere and it's a complete game, and so like nobody got review codes, nobody had like reviews ready. Travis Northup, who's been on the show a few times, apparently he just jumped on that grenade or fell on that sword or whatever the expression is, and he's just like, I know this game so well, I can beat it in 3 hours, I'll review it. And it's like, I love it, he's just like grinding on that right now. But at the same time, like, and again, with remakes of really good games, it can go really either way. And it seemed, from what we've seen, this seems like it's a really, really, really good one. But again, I'm like, I'm waiting to sort of see what the, people who really dig into it and pick it apart, if they're like, oh, once you get to level 30, it really turns into a turd or whatever. Like, I don't know what, I don't know what happens in there, but I don't know. We don't really get games like this that often. Like games of this scale getting full on overhauls that get shadow dropped. Yeah,
it's unprecedented. I'm sure there's some others that have gotten that are close to this scale or near it, but they're few and far between. So I'm very excited to jump back into this one later today after I finish some work and just decide that playing this is more work, so I can shave off some some hours for the normal work today. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. I'd say just biggest tip I can is just go in and explore, have fun. Like, don't worry so much about min-maxing unless you're playing on the master difficulty like I am, where I'm gonna have to min-max. Because the other thing they mentioned it during the live stream about how they changed like the skill leveling up. But before, you used to have to level up a skill a bunch of times in different classes for like strength and intelligence, agility, dexterity, whatever, to when you leveled up to get the maximum stat point bonus. And if you weren't careful about that back in the day, you would quickly get outscaled by the enemies because their stats would just be higher. Despite you being at the same level, their stats would be better because you're like, oh, I leveled up my sneak skill twice, and then I also leveled up my one-handed 4 times. So you got 2 points to your strength and 1 point to your agility or dexterity or whatever. Whereas the enemies got like a +3 across the board to all their stats. So just be kind of mindful of that type of stuff as well, I'd say. But otherwise, just kind of, don't worry about min-maxing.
Just get in there. Just obliv it up,
Obliv it up. I got a question.
Yes.
Okay, everything that we've seen so far, heard so far, played, whatever about this game, would you consider this a remaster or a remake? Because they're calling it a remaster, but clearly this looks a lot better than the traditional remaster that's just higher frame rate, better lighting.
I mean, I think it falls like on that upper echelon of remaster, lower echelon of what we would consider a remake. It's like I think it truly is a little bit in between, and I won't know until I get deeper into it to see exactly how much has changed. They talked about recording a ton of new voice lines, so that's new content. That's generally stuff that we usually get in a remake when they redo things like to that nature. But I think one of the things that may push it to more remake territory for me is the Oblivion gates, because you'd be doing tons and tons of Oblivion gates, but back in the day there was only 7 variations of it. So once you've seen all 7 variations, you're just like, okay, I'm doing the same thing over and over again, just trying to get better loot. So if they've added more variations or added something to where it kind of, I don't know, randomizes the elements to where it's almost, I don't want to say procedurally generated or built, but like maybe like blocks of the thing are procedurally bolted together so it feels like a different experience each time, that would put it more into the remake camp for me.
This is such a granular, like, goalpost moving conversation, and it is. But we're dorks. We do this. It happens. But no, you raise an interesting point of like, again, this from what we can see, from what we've seen so far, it's a very, very good something of a beloved game that seems to have understood the assignment, and they've made some changes. But again, like when you say remake, you think you take the same thing and do it again. Maybe you change some stuff. Like looking at Resident Evil, they changed some big stuff. Like there's some major changes in there. Silent Hill they switched some stuff around too. It seems like this is pretty, like, aside from some like skill point stuff and like the majority of the changes that have been made seem like they're ultimately cosmetic or quality of life rather than like content. So it would seem like Bethesda has come in and completely ruined our naming convention for what constitutes a remake and what constitutes a remaster, because like this seems more in line with something like the Demon's Souls remake, which didn't call itself anything. It just called itself Demon's Souls, didn't it?
Yeah. It was just Demon's Souls again.
What are we doing here? This doesn't make any sense.
we need the gaming companies to get together.
I think here's my theory, and this again further ruins things and complicates stuff further, because ultimately remaster and remake, they do have specific, like we're applying cinematic terminology to game development, which is a different animal entirely. Like a remaster is when you take the original film reels and you rescan them and you go in and maybe clean up the dust, or you take the masters, the recording of the audio files, and you re-level them. I feel like Nick, you could probably speak to this better.
You remix them and you go through everything.
But you don't change anything. You take the original stuff and you just kind of put it together again. Like it's not, there's nothing new being added. Whereas you look at a remake and it's like, oh, I don't know.
We added in this extra scene. There's new dialogue.
Yeah, it's entirely new actors. They made the thing all over again. And in this case, it would seem like they definitely made the whole thing all over again. One dead giveaway is that it's in a different engine. They didn't take the character models and like use AI to upscale the textures. They rebuilt everything from the ground up. Like there's new lip syncing technology. They've added new dialogue. Like there's enough new stuff in there that I would say they remade it. I think that's fair. That said, I understand why they would use the term remastered, because remastered sounds classier and it sounds more fantastic. When you hear like remaster, it sounds like there's a kind of gravitas to it. Whereas remake is like it's like do-over. You're like, we screwed it up, we got to do it again, we got to make it all over again. But like I think it also has a different connotation in the audience that are picking up and spending money on these games, because when they hear remake, they're thinking something like Final Fantasy VII Remake or Rebirth now at this point, which are full on upscaled, completely new experiences that just retain the original story, but still even make changes to that. FF7 Remake screwed everything up. That one is so far out. Again, everyone's sort of remaking things to a different degree. It's very funny. It's a stupid problem to have. It's not even a problem. It's just the fact that we don't know what the hell anyone's talking about when they use one of these words. And then there's Capcom over here doing like the Ralph Wiggum Go Banana with Deluxe Remaster. Whatever the hell that was. The Doctor. Yeah. Yep. Thanks for that, guys. I like that they completely remade the idea of a remake with Resident Evil, and then they were like, and also here's the Deluxe Remaster. I don't know. Just bring back remix. We'll just say that. It's just, I think remix, that would be the worst word to apply to a fantasy RPG. Hey, real quick, while I have your attention, I want to shout out IGN's sister site Humble, where you can score a bunch of awesome games super cheap while also helping raise money for charity. This April, $12 will get you 8 curated PC games through Humble Choice, including Tomb Raider 1-3 Remastered and Dredge. For just $14, you can grab a hand-picked Metroidvania bundle featuring standout titles like Grime, Berserk Boy, and Shantae and the Seven Sirens. Or you can go all in with $28 to unlock the complete Doom and Wolfenstein collections, including all DLC, and you'll get a discount on the upcoming Doom: The Dark Ages. As a Humble Choice member, you'll also save up to 20% in the Humble store, including new releases, pre-orders, and big sales. Whether you're shopping the store, grabbing bundles, or subscribing to Choice, every purchase helps support a great cause, so head over to humble.com to find out more today.